How we doing, guys? Just we took off Wednesday, came back Thursday, watched the second half of the game, and I had a really good practice yesterday, and just trying to. We've evaluated every possession in the last 7 minutes of all of our games, and did all kind of offensive efficiency, defensive efficiency, and some things that we've got to improve on. And we had some great opportunities against Florida. Obviously, the biggest part was second shot opportunities when we were up 9 and 50-50 balls and offensive rebounds. And then on the other end, I thought we had some really good offensive opportunities. Didn't make it, but in these leagues, you got to go to the next day, and looking forward to tomorrow. We all love the early starts. I think everybody in college basketball loves them, and I think our guys are looking forward to playing Georgia.
John, start us off.
Kermit, you mentioned you guys had some good practices this week. What's kind of the frustration level of your guys kind of been like in practice this week, and how much has the intensity kind of ramped up in those inset practices?
Yeah, zero frustration. There's no frustration. I mean, are we disappointed we've lost? No question. I mean, losing is no good. And, we talked about after Christmas Alabama and LSU, maybe the two best teams in the league besides Tennessee. They got us. But, you take after the break, Wichita State and Florida, we talk about it a bunch, and we make maybe one play on each end in both games. Like I said, we're sitting here with 8 wins and 2-2 in the league, and everybody thinks we're fine. So, so there's no frustration. The only time I would ever really get frustrated is when our team won't practice, and we're not going to let that happen. I mean, our teams, they came with good spirits. Are they disappointed? We watched the tape again of all the opportunities, no question about it, and those are the things that we've got to get fixed.
Go to Ben.
Herman, what's the evaluation of the scout of Georgia?
Just they can score. I mean, their point guard may be one of the fastest downhill point guards in college basketball, and Wheeler. They go to LSU and get beaten overtime, and they get 80, and he just dominated the game. I mean, he just stayed in the paint all game long. That day they made 12 threes. They've been a really good offensive team. They're giving up, it's just obvious they're giving up points in our league, but they can score. And just got a kid eligible, Johnson, who had 19 or 20 against Auburn. So a really, really good offensive team.
Nick, go ahead.
Kermit, if you just look at wins and losses this year, it seems like across the entire SEC, home court advantage has kind of disappeared with all the COVID protocols. Just from your vantage point, playing at home and on the road, is there any difference anymore, or is it all kind of the same game?
Besides, Nick, venues of just shooting, there really is. Because I never hear a crowd. I'm sure they don't in the pavilion. Maybe one time a little bit when Locke hit a 3 to take the lead, but not much. And I know everybody's doing what they can do. Each venue's fans are doing what they can do, but I think you're just going to see that. We talked about it a bunch as a staff early on that's going to happen. But it really isn't, besides the travel and just maybe shooting on different goals, there's really not much advantage at all.
We'll go to Christopher.
Hey, Coach. Chris from Arizona State Student Newspaper. At ASU, Romello White always brought such a fierce energy on the glass. He really set the standard for team rebounding over there. Has Romello brought that same sense of rebounding energy and leadership to your team this year? And if so, how have you seen him demonstrate it?
He's been a great guy to coach, but obviously, Romello and I we've met a lot. I mean, he's not rebounding it like he did at Arizona State. And, we had 2 rebounds the other night against Florida. And so, we've got to do better. Romello White, needs to do better as far as being physical and dominating and closing games out, just like the other night, of just rebounding, closing games out. And Romello's not the Lone Ranger on our team either. We got to have other guys to do that. But he's been a joy to coach, great young guy, and he's done some really good things for us offensively. But, yeah, and I think Romello's the first one to admit that he's got to rebound it better.
Back to Ben. Go ahead, Ben. You're muted. All right. Any other questions? Back to Nick.
Just following up on how Matt's doing. I know he kind of was a little gimpy in that last game.
Yeah, he's doing good. I just talked to Matt. We're going to practice here today at 11 o'clock. And he took it was kind of a knee, and he kind of came down wrong. and we're just glad that it's not serious. But I put him back in. He didn't look 100. He looked probably about 75 or 80%. We just weren't going to chance it, and so we just set him the rest of the game. But I think he'll be at full speed tomorrow. He was live yesterday in practice, and we'll look forward to having him back.
John, go ahead.
After the Florida game, Devontae said that some guys had been a little lackadaisical at practice during that week. I know you said that you guys have had a good practice, but was that something you noticed at all last week before the Florida game, and how good has he been as a vocal leader in the locker room?
Yeah, I think Devontae has really matured. I think we need to hear Devontae's voice even more. We do. And out on the floor, he's a quiet guy, but even as a point guard. But Devontae had a really good practice yesterday. Probably had a couple guys that didn't meet the standards in practice, and it's probably why a couple guys started and a couple guys didn't. And, Demencio Vaughn had a really good practice, and that's why we gave him more minutes because of his physicality. Demencio was out yesterday with just some flu-like symptoms. He's back today. But for the most part, our team has been a good practice team. It's not perfect, and like every coach in America, you're trying to get more guys because, it's in our league, it's what does it take to close that game? It just kind of takes what it takes. And, there's no in between. I mean, the game demands a lot. And if you don't give it its full attention, you're going to struggle. And if you give it its full attention, you're going to be successful. And, right now in SEC play, we're last in the SEC in rebound margin, just in SEC play. And with guys like, the size that we have, Romello and Dream and KJ and Luis and, guards, Devontae got one rebound the other night. And so, those are the things that we can control. Shot making sometimes can be shot making, but we can still, win games without making 10 threes. But we got to hang our hat defensively and rebounding. And if we do that the other night, John, we win the game. It doesn't matter what we did offensively, So that's something that we can control. We got to get better at that.
Back to Christopher.
Just as a quick follow-up question to Romello, as a grad transfer, has he kind of come in and impacted the locker room with some of his veteran tendencies this season? He has. He's,
and for a grad transfer, he's already got his degree. He did great in school. The fall semester was a tribute to Romello. He's been great in our locker room, very popular with all of our guys, and our guys really, really enjoy him. And so from that standpoint, he's been really, really a good guy to be around.
Back to Ben.
You brought him up, Kermit, but Demencio played his third game, I think, with double-digit minutes. What did he do well, and where did he show improvement, if he did show improvement in terms of what you were looking at?
Yeah, the reason he hasn't played as much as defensively, and, we missed a couple assignments late on, we're double-teaming the post from the baseline. We were late there. But it's just his energy, really, Ben. I mean, he's got such a loud voice in our gym. He's always leads us in rebounding. And I thought the other night, he made a timely three on a great extra pass. He drove the ball late, great shot, got blocked at 2 feet, one of those 6 or 7 attempts that we had really good looks. It's just been his practice. I mean, he didn't play against Auburn. He was the happiest guy in the locker room. Came to practice, the next day and played. So those kind of things, coaches just, we all notice, and we want to give him a chance. And he'll get a chance tomorrow night, too, or tomorrow afternoon.